Week Signal Society for Hamcation 2025.
You're aiming the mic at the speaker and
It is doing it.
almost.
Yeah. How's that? Is that better? It's just a collage here of pictures or some of our activities in the past. We always have a pretty good time at our meetings. I'd like to encourage everyone here, if you're in the area, please come out. My name is Walter Dale. I'm K4HV. That's K4RSV over here. George is helping me out today as well. If you can, please turn around and introduce yourself to somebody you don't know. I appreciate everybody coming out. It's a long walk from the parking lot. Okay, so what we typically do during the year, we have lots of conversations about VHF and operation. Give me a minute, guys. And I know you're excited. First thing Saturday morning, the deals are gone. They were here yesterday. They're gone. Thank you.
Well, you turned us loose and introduced it.
Well, yeah, you said, hey, my name's Walter. Nice to see you. And that's it.
It's not that way with hands.
I know it. But we have a lot of technical discussion you're not going to find on the internet, personal experimentation, and we have lunch, and usually have door prizes or of whatever you don't want at your house. You bring it in and give it away to somebody else. And we do contact scheduling as well. And our meetings run from 10 to 3 p.m. on selected Saturdays. And just shoot me an email if you'd like to host a meeting. We're always soliciting presentations, so do encourage PowerPoint format. You can choose your own colors. All you do is bring your presentation on a thumb drive. Make it interesting. Use graphics and pictures whenever possible. Hams we're somewhat literate, but we like lots of pictures like 5-year-olds. Operating. I'm not sure if this is even current anymore. Are they still doing an FT8 or whatever on 144.74 on Mondays? I know there's a Monday activity net, but a lot of folks have been moved around and had damage from hurricanes and whatnot this past year. And Thursday, the 432.090 at 8 p.m. And that's been going on for many years. If you'd like to use the W4 FWS club call, just shoot Chuck K0VXM an email saying, hey, I'm used to the club call for this weekend. He's fine. He doesn't care. But anybody can use it at will. No phone when that's on Christmas or Thanksgiving holidays. Oh, this is one thing I want to talk about. We're all getting to be geriatrics around here, a lot of us. So investment costs can grow times the number of bands, but ICOM 705s are now available with Plutos. Like here's your 705 here that George brought in. Does everything, every band known to man in the kitchen sink. And George will talk about his little SDR project. He's been going like gangbusters on. Technology access is making it cheaper. Technical risk, investment, how much are you willing to put in your projects? Money. We have very little of in retirement now. And lightning and storm hazards. Anyway, just some points to bring up. Beacon updates. I was going to let George, you want to talk about the beacons just for a brief moment? Just give an update.
Most of the beacons are on the air. I'm part of the Orlando group as well, and I'd like to see a few people in here from the Orlando group. I keep announcing the frequencies, but we're not picking up as many people we usually as possibly could. The propagation beacons, if you're testing receivers, whatever, you have something on the air. Our prime purpose of doing those is to keep something on the air. Actually, FCC and some other people, commercial people, will tune around on these frequencies and look for activity. So even if you don't get on the band, as long as we keep the beacons going and they tune around, they'll find there's some activity. It's a dumb beacon, but that's okay. It's smart enough for us. Right now, we have a few of the beacons that are not on the air. Some of the essentials are. We retired the 6 meter. Don't look for that. I got to get some updates on that. People listen on FT8 for 6 meter openings. It's real simple, straightforward. The computer keeps up with it, and you don't have to sit there and try to figure out where these people are, what their calls are, and what have you. FT8 is a perfect thing for propagation on 6 meters. 2 meters and frequencies above that, this is more helpful, and plus signal generation go to 6 meters, so you don't need to be tested. But presently, the 2 meter, 222, 432, 1296, the 902 are still on the air. We're hurting on 2. We're into conflicts with 2, but with Wi-Fi up there. There's a lot of antennas in the area. We have a 3.4 that will be on the air soon, I hope, on the new frequency. We got bumped. We may lose 3 and 4 or 3 gigs completely. So we're going to try to put that beacon on as soon as possible, get some activity. So if somebody starts tuning around, there's something going on. We're 3, 4, 5, 6 is gone. The Europeans are using 3, 4, and have been for years for EME. So they're sort of blocking some of the activity of the commercial people taking over that frequency. And we'll probably all stick pretty close to 3.4. 100 KC area, which is all fine for us for DX people. Then we jumped to 5 gigs. That went off the air the other day, but we're going to rebuild it. And we had a beautiful donation of a 10 slot, 12 slot antenna. Was it 10 or 12? 12 slot. So we're going to have gangbusters back on 5 gigs. So that's a great band. It competes real well with 10 gigs. The 10 gigs is on the air and the 24, but the 24 only runs 150 milliwatts. So that's the activities. And as I get around to it, we'll get the 3, 4 on the air as soon as we can. And the 2, there's other problems we won't discuss here right now. 20, yeah, the 2304. Yes. We are going to get it back on, but it's going to be at lower power because there's so much equipment up there. And we're sitting on top of a retirement facility, and it's full of Wi-Fi stuff underneath us. And we're afraid to run the full 20 watts near a bunch of hi-fi equipment.
I'm sure that old people start in retirement facilities start losing their internet, they will be in tears. I just experienced that for my mother-in-law. She lost her dish satellite service and had to go to North Carolina to fix it. So anyway, just a test here. This is real world ham test benches. You can see how a mess it is. This is typical. So just to briefly touch on a lot of different topics here. That test equipment is, we understand test equipment is not something Ham's going to invest in because they're tight. They'll buy a Bird 43 and that's about it. And that's a highfalutin test here for a Ham. And so please understand what you're buying. Is it useful? Is it broken? If it's probably built back in the 1980s, it's most likely broken if it's surplus out. Don't even worry about the calibration. Can you fix it? Do you have the knowledge to fix it? Can you get manuals for it? Parts? Again, is it 50 years old already? So having a collection of broken and unusable test equipment can cause a lot of discouragement. So I just like to warn people about that. I've bought some stuff in the past that was somewhat questionable, but I was able to get it fixed. But anyway, there's less gear to get started. They have these little counters you can go on eBay for $15. Price may have gone up due to inflation. And these little power meters, $33. So there is cheap stuff if you shop around and come to the meetings to find out who's using what. It's always helpful. The little nano VNA thing is a hot item right now. A lot of folks are using that. $156 back in the day. Here's an SDR play thing. But it doesn't need to be super expensive, but you do need something to get started with. If you don't have test gear, you're just shooting in the blind. You don't know what's going on. You might be 2 megahertz off. You're trying to call somebody. You think your radio is working and it's not. This is one of the current investigations I'm looking at now. It's a Quanshine UK V5 99HT. Full band SDR, 20 to 1 gig, 20 meg to 1 gig. And you can modify it for a single sideband by reflashing the firmware.
Receiver only or transceiver?
Transceiver, full band, unblocked, DC daylight, and dirt cheap. It's like, I think I paid $37 for mine. It'll be here tomorrow. I wish I'd had it today, but I don't have it. And does firmware upgrades through a web browser. There's tons of info online available. Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, lots of YouTube videos on this radio here. And then they have this board module that you plug in. You can see right here on the keypad, tack this little board in here, and that's for the SSB mod. I'm not sure what it does yet. Like I said, I don't have mine yet, but I'm investigating. Hopefully by the next meeting or so, I'll have a full-blown package to disclose. Help somebody have a really dirt cheap IF rig. So, pretty useful to go from 20 meg to 1 gig. I mean, you can have one of those, or you can have a high performance 705 like this here. But either way, it's a cheap way to get on the air. I mean, it's cheaper.
It's good enough for any IF, right?
Absolutely. The key in circuit is the only thing that you got to bring out. But I don't have it yet, so. But it looks promising. I think something like this here. I have not seen any of these at the Hamfest. Has anybody seen this radio? You have one. This guy's got one.
I got that one.
Oh, it's just black. Okay, bring it up here if you will. You haven't modified it yet, but you're going to.
Probably.
I mean, that's a nice little IF radio for portable operation. I mean, you have less than $50 and something like that. I mean, that's affordable. That is cheaper than a used Kenwood 2 meter almost IF rig. So,
What's it do? A watt? 5 watts?
I don't know what it does. How much does it put out? 5 watts, okay. I think when you go to the low end of the band, like around 20 meg, 10 meter range, the power peters out rapidly. But it's a nice little radio to try out. Okay, George, I'm going to let you talk about your little SDR project here.
Okay.
Here.
I'm going to try not to bore everybody to death on this. I'm coming over to the dark side. I don't want to keep by going to SDR. More and more of it is going digital. This is reverse. I plan to do 2 presentations. One is pretty simple. I was going to start with the simple, but we'll go ahead and do the SDR. Don't really want to just go and talk about this and read things off, but to start with, I think I'm going to do that at some point. And this is based on the SDR. I'm going to try to briefly go through this and then do one thing. I was told to do this Monday, and this project and one other project were the 2 that I was working on, and had a little bit of documentation. So I sort of loosely put it together and see if it can be interesting to a few people. But I want to just make a few points that the software radios, at least the points off that are presently here, have matured really to the point where the technology and the price makes the SDR practical. As a microwave enthusiast, our biggest problem has been coax losses, or what knows that degrades both our receive and our transmit. And for example, on 10K games, for transmitting power, it's about $100 a watt. So this can get a little bit expensive. There's 2 ways to solve some of the microwave problems. There's the halfway, and then there's the full way. The halfway is to take care of the losses only on receive, and you eat power in your coax on the way up. That's a pretty expensive way to do it, but it's pretty effective. And you are hearing stations, and until you start hearing, you really can't make any communication. So it's very, very important to put your preamps on the tower. It's very inexpensive relative to going to a full system where you really put the transmitters on the tower too. You get into a lot more hardware. So the first step, if you can get a preamp on and pretty decent coax, you're in the microwaves pretty well. The big problem is distance, from where your radio is to get to the tower, to the antenna. So that's part of the disadvantages on that. And the other disadvantage in all cases here, full and half, is lightning will never be our friend, and we're all going to take a big chance when we put wire and antennas on the high tower. And we're asking for it. Be prepared for that. I've experienced that several times. Then we get to the double fix, which I mentioned is really the best fix, and it's sort of a trade-off on dollars and cents. You get more power out to the antenna, but you pay a little bit more for it. And then here we have the distance problem. So when I got onto this project, I was trying to solve the distance problem. I said, I presently have a few transformers on the tower, and I got cables up the tower. And I decided that I was really going to have to come up with a little bit different system, and this might not be for everyone. But if you're going to put transmitters on the tower, you've got to have power on the tower. And I decided to use switching regulators and go up with about the 75 volt, 65 seconds. It's unregulated. It's about 75 volts. Switch it, and I have plenty of current at 12 and 24. There's so much surplus equipment that runs on 24. It's great to get some of the surplus equipment, especially relays. And some of the military transmitters, like that are 28, will work fine on 24 volts. So that was the first thing that went up. Nice little heavy cable down at the base of the tower is the box with the power supply, and I just turn AC off and on to that. So I've got the power on the tower. The next thing is, how do you control the equipment that you put up there? The SDR is a little bit of it's a great answer to the problem as far as I'm concerned, because it's frequency wise, it's very wide band, and the front end sensitivity we're finding will go. It will go all the way up to 6 gigahertz. And the sensitivity is still very good. So all you got to do then is start worrying about how do you get power, and how do you power it, and how do you get the RF out. So to solve the distance problem, and it is pretty close to 300 feet from my shack in the garage, across to the tower, up the tower, then get to the equipment, and explain how I've got the tower already up there. I run across an item, and you might take note, and you can copy down the model numbers and the manufacturer, but this is a transmitter and receiver that does a conversion for speed purposes. And it will take a USB, which right now we're using for the SDR control through a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, it's all bolted together.
Yeah,
I wanted to
I'll have
check it out.
everyone just drop by, look at it. I started this with only on Monday, and I decided when I started writing up to try to explain this, I said, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, I'm not going to do the dictionary. So hopefully this will be the explanation as a dictionary as you view it. I'll explain any elements that you want to. We're going to bring up the slide. Unfortunately, this is out of order. I'm talking about the SDR, but this is actually the next program.
Which one?
This is a block diagram. As you see, when I did this, I said, gee whiz, this is getting complicated even for me to keep up with. And how to do a write-up with all these elements. We're going to just do it here as live. Anyone that's interested and can keep up and understand what I'm talking about, this is going to be great because I think you're going to like it. Back to my notes just for a minute. Yeah, I mentioned the solving the problems. It solves the log coax problem altogether because you're talking to the equipment digitally. And I wanted to put a transceiver on the tower. It is ideal for microwave purposes because it's solving the coax. I'm repeating myself, the coax problem. And that's really what we're trying to solve here. That was our whole intent. And putting both pieces up, the intent was to run the DC to DC. So that's basically what I'm mentioning here and how to approach it, how I approached it. This transmitter and receiver here digitally solve big problems. My plan is to have one high-powered 75-volt system go up to run DCs to DCs. Then I have power. How do I control it? I am going full bore on this. This is a 10-channel, 10-band system, so you can use it to what extent you want to use it. It only has the 75 volts going up and 2 LAN cables, 2 standard LAN cables. As you find that you get a roll, make it to your 300 feet or whatever you have to do, plug those in to this system, you have control over everything. One on USB is just to control the SDR. The second one has one pair that I use for the serial 10-channel converter. I can select, this is a simulation, it's only got 4 switch positions. The finished unit will have 10 positions. Those are 10 different functions, 10 different bands, and it sends it out on one twisted pair in the second LAN cable. That still leaves 6 conductors that you can use to operate other things as hardwired, like you want to send up to control the elevation, or you have an indicator showing the azimuth. You can work out ways to solve that problem with your extra 6 wires.
The one pair, has that got an analog signal on it?
No, it's a digital. This is a little bit of particular piece of equipment that wasn't easy to find, but JC and I both found these are available. These are out of Britain, I think. Yeah. And real neat little device. If you can get into this, you want to do remote. This thing will do 300 feet too. But you use Cat 6, one twisted pair. This is a serial, and on the other end is open collectors. So you can operate them any way. So if I select channel one is activated. That's going to be one of my bands. 6 meters, yeah, in the case, but I go all the way up to 24 gigahertz with it. And what you need the other 6 pair hardwired for is if you're going to use it in 2 modes. Here's something else to think about if you're going to get into this. You can use the SDR as an IF radio, or you can use it direct. When I got into this, I found out this is a big switching deal to try to do all these bands. But I simplified it by one thing. There is a PTT bus that operates from the ground on this end, and another one I call auxiliary. Auxiliary runs with a sequencer if you need it. It will make the antenna changeover connections for you, preamp connections, changeovers for you. You do that. My PTT goes to everybody. I use diodes as a core. Any one of those can pick up the PTT, so I only need one wire for that. Then I use one wire connection to your open collector to select the band. When I select the band, I use the great old new MOSFETs we have available, high current. And when I do a piece of equipment, whether it's a preamp, whether it's amplifiers, or any combination, I will power that whole unit with one command that's selected of 1 of 10. That unit will be inactive. It will not respond to anything. It won't respond to auxiliary. It won't respond to push to talk or anything. So it is sort of a mono system. But you can very easily, when you select that band, you're there. You're operational. So it is a little bit of a switching nightmare, but it can be as bad as you want it. It's how many bands you want. But I'm a glutton for punishment, so I'm going to go for the 10 right now. And I do have it set up now. Then on the lower bands, I'll leave the RF, and it's really separate. 6, 2, 432, 222. They're normal. They go through a big old motor changing relay. That's not part of the system. 902 and above, I start using the SDR. The SDR works direct, no preamp, only requires a good filter to keep other noise out of the front end. The SDR is a whole lot of birdies, noise, whatever out of the bandwidth. If you get a decent filter to go with the SDR on frequencies all the way from 902 up to 3 gigahertz, sensitivity is perfect. Forget about preamp. You won't need it. You're already at the antenna. You've already solved a big part of your problem. There's where you are. So this system, 902 through 3 gigs, is directly with the SDR. And all I do is add an amplifier to it, RF amplifier. From there on, through my switching, in a particular channel I select the switching, not there are relays at the moment. We'll convert it over to a transceiver, and then I have a transverter up there. I really like to go high nines on 5 gigs and 10 gigs. And that's the reason. I've already got those units already built as transverters, and I'm just going to bring them over and connect them into this system. And when it goes into the transceiver mode, whatever I dial up, I may use 70 centimeters again for the IF. But the nice thing, this thing's very broadband. You can pick any IF you want. This HDR program, you can program it to whatever you want, and you just set the program in for the band that you want to be on, your IFs, your levels, everything already set, so it's automated. So we're using both worlds, the digital part as well as the ham radio part that we love the best. So that's about it on that. If you have any questions, I may have missed something.
Yeah, so you said decent filters with the SDR. Do you make your own filters? Do you buy surplus filters, or what's your source?
it's a personal thing on filters. I'm cheap. If I can find a cheap commercial one, I'll buy it. But I have a little program, and if anyone's interested in this little program, I can design filters with this program, believe it or not. The basic requirement on filters is the microwave region, and I think JT will back me up on this. If it has a bandwidth, let's say 1296, and it has a bandwidth of 50 megahertz, we're still good. Yeah, it agrees to that. And as you go up, the percentage will be about the same. 10 gigs, 5 gigs, 100 megs wide. That may seem like really wide, but you really sort of get into commercial stuff. The higher frequencies you get in 5 gigs and 10 gigs is mechanical, it's waveguide. So it's not something that you can really do on your own real easy, unless you've got a lathe, you're really handy with it. But there are people who are helping us with, and I'm talking to people right now that have the 3D printers, and there's electrical spray. And if you get some, and these programs are on the internet, and you get with some of these groups, some of these filters that we're having trouble making ourselves, you find your best friend that can do the 3D spray, and you're in the microwave business with waveguides. So you don't need a shop for that. So that might be helpful. K&L, I think, find them on. Just look at the specs, make sure that the bandwidth is not half or 50% of the whole band, because it will affect the signal noise ratio on the SDR.
What kind of loss do you have from the filter?
Well, it's the same old problem is the noise loss on the front end of the preamp contributes to the total noise of the preamp. So you're already at the antenna, so that relaxes a lot of your losses that you would normally have. So coax starts being not really part of your problem anymore. And a lot of times in this case, when you're really depending on the filter, and the front end of this thing is very quiet, really depends on the losses. You'd love to find 0.5 dB loss filters, but they're not all out there. For terrestrial, I found on 10 gigahertz, this is something else I found out, you do not need real high, that's my vision, real low noise. Because any antenna you put up on microwave with terrestrial is looking halfway into the earth, trees, and everything in the world that's generating noise to start with. On 10 gigs, I run a 1.5 dB noise preamp, and it's plenty. It's still sensitive enough that if I point my dish at a tree, my noise level goes up.
Just a comment. I live in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, using ISDR like this with the filters with 1 dB noise plus the cable. I can hear all the vehicles from Orlando in Fort Lauderdale, including the 5 gigahertz, the 10 gigahertz, the 1296. So 1 dB is good enough.
Yeah, 1296, 5 gigs, 10 gigs, no preamp. So you don't have to worry about the noise of this SDR. This is the
It's just the SDR with the filter.
Let's see, maybe another question that's about.
I wanted to ask you about the power supply, the switching diode power supply inherently really noisy. How do you clean that up?
I usually, when they're real noisy, if I can get a good commercial unit, it's fairly quiet, but I use the canceling toroid inputs, outputs, high networks, where the windings are out of phase with each other, and they cancel a lot of noise, and I get away with that. Nice thing about it, if you've got good coax and it's solid shielding, and you keep up with it, you make sure your connections are nice and tight. You can have some noise in the area, but you don't have that much noise at the microwave frequencies. It's actually quieter, but DC to DC will just kill you 160 can't help you on lightning.
That's Mother Nature, right?
I've lost 2 nice HF units, I know for sure. I've just super grounded my tower right now. If anyone want to know what all I grounded to, I'll just mention one thing. I'll make this thing long, but I had a leak in my well. They started pulling out 20-foot sections of galvanized pipe. I put one of those next to my tower, and before I put my tower legs in concrete, it's a 50-foot windmill tower with a 10-foot base. I put a screw anchor in the hole I was going to put the concrete in as a ground rod. It's got a lot of surface area with the screw. And attached each leg to a screw anchor, and then the ground around it, tied all 4 of them back together. That's what I use for ground. So hopefully, and I rotate the tower so I keep all my communications inside the tower and well ground the tower section, and hopefully none of the too much will get induced into my cables. But I know I'm taking a risk, just like everybody else on this. I looked into optical control. It's very expensive. It would be ideal, but it's not the cheapest way to go. So my best bet is disconnect stuff like the rest of it. If it looks threatening, just disconnect stuff. It's the best. A lot of people come to a lot of trouble and still can't get away from it.
Hey, George.
Pardon?
Can you step through your system, describe it real quick again?
Yes, I will. I've sort of described it. Anyone that wants to come up, I started here on the left and then to the right. This unit is simulating the 10-channel. Okay. This is simulating my 10-channel control. It's a row of just toggle switches, center off. That runs over, and I've simulated. Think of this one as one twisted pair through a LAN cable that wouldn't normally go through this, but I've already connected it directly to the decoder. So if I put in a 2 here, I get a 2 there. It's that simple. So that's just a hardwired bus type connection. The second USB goes through we'll see, I just described the LAN cable with the 8-wire 300-foot. 2 of the wires feeds the decoder. The other 6 are available for whatever I want to just hardwire connect to. So now I have communications with all the equipment, the SDR, and all my switching through those 2 LAN cables. Then I go over to the SDR receiver itself. And there's one key point I haven't mentioned with the asterisk, which is important because I'm doing multiple systems. Every system you put together, and especially if you're scrounging parts and you're building your own, system throughput gain level will be different for everyone. I have used these 10 channels as well. Goes off to another section, which I don't really show, that actually controls that unit up there. It's an amplifier with an analog input. 0 volts, 0 out, 5 volts. No, 0 volts is full output, 5 volts, it shuts it off. So I have complete gain control over all the systems. And part of my selections of channels that I select will select a resistor, simple divider, that will put the right voltage on that amplifier so that I can adjust for any system that I want to build. You buy commercial, whatever, and it'll take care of your throughput. You will need that. There's several ways to do it. You don't have to do it this fancy way. There are attenuators without amplifiers that'll do the same thing. And with the extra 6 wires, you can do BCD, and you can control them digitally, and you can switch some of the, and this is low power stuff. So you can find a simple little BCD attenuator to put up there you'll have that under control as well. So it can be inexpensive. I just got lucky on that. And moving on, the two examples is the classic direct. As you see, my bandpass filter, which you can see here in the preamp, when it's in line, that's all I need. That goes over to the direct, which the SDR has dual inputs, so to speak. There's a separate transmit and a separate receive. So that's why we have the dual switching. And then the classic inverter arrangement, and that's where I have my 10 gig and my 5 gig, and those go and split out through switching, and then the SDR becomes a transceiver.
You compare the MacRF to the Pluto SDR, in terms of suitability, bandwidth, price, stuff like that.
Oh, yes, we'll talk about price. Things may be changing a little bit on price out of China. You know that. I think I paid $225 for the SDR. Yeah, I think they're still pretty well priced like that. The Raspberry Pi was fairly inexpensive with the display, what have you. With the 225 into the SDR, I have about 500 into that. These are not cheap, but boy, they are good to make the transition for the 300 feet for control. Those two together, I think I paid about the same for the SDRs. It's about less than $250. So I'm up to about $750. And if you could find the 10-channel remote arrangement, I think I got it for $50-$60, something like that. Inexpensive if you can get it. There's plenty of people. If you can get back with me, I'll try to help you get some of these parts. You're not alone. You can't really afford to have. Not everybody here even wants to have the test equipment that I have. We have another member up in Longwood that's helpful. We've got all kinds of equipment. If you want to start from scratch and you don't know what you're doing, you want help, and we can help you kit it together, where we can furnish a few of the parts, give you guidelines. I can draw you up a schematic. You tell me what you want. We'll try to get a system together. So you don't have to go flat-footed on this. So and through that, we're trying to encourage everybody to get on microwaves if they can. If you can just get on one band, you're 902, and you got the one unit, it goes simple, that's great. I'm talking about, I'm a glutton for punishment on this, and I was just going to mention that to you, and you figured it out.
This component is like 750, but for 10 bands. So if you divide by 10, it's like $75 each band. If you go 10 bands, that's from 2 meters to 5.7.
George,
I'm not mentioning the output on these are low.
How much is this now?
How much does it cost?
Yeah.
It's insured.
Yeah. A couple thousand now.
I think
So
I think it's about 1,300 right now. There's been around long enough. There's a few on up for sale used. The SDR. I'm using the Pluto Plus. It has a built-in, real nice, stable 40 megahertz reference, and I'm not planning on even using an external reference for it because it is so stable. There's two kinds of things that can happen on stability. It can be long-term or short-term drift, and you give it just a few minutes, you take care of long-term, and then it stabilizes. It may not be exactly on frequency, but we're trying to get people on the band near the frequency that we're on. So it satisfies that just as it is. Yes, sir.
What are you using for RF amplifiers?
RF amplifiers. That is a tough area. We're trying to use, there's not a whole lot of commercial stuff. Unfortunately, the commercial people are not really too interested in us. Um, the closest thing we've got locally and easy to talk to people is Down East Microwave. They do have amplifiers. Occasionally, some surplus equipment will show up and you can get a good price on it. And you can go with that if you can get it, and then get some help to make sure that you can communicate with it and make it work for you.
You can find some broadband amplifiers on eBay for 1 watt, and it's enough to 100 miles. DSO, 5 gigahertz.
Huh? The Rapco? Oh, I'll talk to you after I'm getting the hook to get off. I'm going to jump on to the next one real quick because it's real simple. It's to do to the people that do have the 705s, and I wanted to give you a warning about that. And then any questions, you can come by, look at it. I'll be glad to point it out to you. I'll tell you about the pricing and the switches that I'm using and relays. But this one came out of an incident I had back when I first got into microwaves. The very first mixer that I bought, it would go to 10 gigs, and that was my project. It cost me $35, and I was just tickled to death to get that good of a mixer for $35. And I started putting my prototype together, and I didn't have my switching all worked out, and I blew my mixer on the first day. So I said, I'm never going to do that again. And since I'm using the 705 as my IF radio, this radio on full 13 volts will deliver 10 watts. That'll blow any good mixer without any problem. It does have low power output, which is great because driving the mixer, you don't want to throw away 100 watts to drive when you need 1 milliwatt to drive a transverter. It's a big waste. So this radio is really good for that. Since you can program it, I can program it for the transverter I'm using, but I'm not always correct on what I'm doing in programming. If you look it up and you didn't program it for the RF level that you wanted to use, you can blow your mixer. The nice thing about this is that if you're using low power to start with, you're not wasting a lot of power. And if you get the power down low enough, then you can use some simple switching. And this works on a real nice principle that coax has a tuning effect. And coax, if you're not familiar with it, a shorted quarter disappears. You can put shorted quarters on any transmitter receiver, you'll never see that piece of coax. Its complement is an open half, is the same thing. So what I used here is my 16 ohm resistor is a fuse. If I put too much power into this, there's the particular attenuator I'm using right now for my transverter. But that 16 ohm resistor will save every mixer. What happens is the diodes over on the right side, those do not conduct at all at the very low levels of receive. They just disappear. So it's sitting there as an open half, which is invisible at the frequency you're operating on. If you put too much power into it and the diodes start conducting, it becomes a shorted half. Into RF, it is a serious short with a 16 ohm resistor to make the sacrifice. The only thing I warn you about this is if it's contest and you're out in the field and you make this mistake bad enough, you blow that resistor, the rest of the contest, you're out of it. So that's the only advice I give you on that. And that's basically it. I just wanted to warn you, if you're using the 705 or something that runs a lot more power than you need, and you can make a mistake on your programming, this little circuit, and you can scale it. If you want it on 2 meters, you just scale it for 2 meters or whatever your IF frequency is. So that could save you a bundle on transverter.
Stick around. I want everybody to come up here and ask George questions. Sandra's got a quick announcement here. Right, she's done. You gather that stable and look at George's setup here.
Great. I'm Sandra, a recipe for I'm just here to encourage you to come to conference. We're having the Southeast VHF Society is having a conference this year. We haven't been active in a couple of years, so we're having it this year. And it's going to be in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's going to be April the 4th and the 5th. Not completely settled yet, but I believe there's going to be a get together on Thursday night for those that can come early. And that's around the distillery that is just close to the hotel, which is the Quality Inn and the Money Exit 4, which is the last exit as you're going north or west and on the highway. And there's right there a distillery / restaurant that we get together there on Thursday. And then the activity is going to be Friday and Saturday, as usual, with that banquet closure. And you can check the details at www.sierra.org, southeastvhfsociety.org. And there's 2 call for papers that's going to go to March 17th. Again, you go to the website for the details of where to send it. And then the Central State Society is going to be hosting their conference this year in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's in July 24th to the 27th. 24th is they have a hospitality on Thursday nights and actually every night. Conference activities on Friday and Saturday, close to the banquet. Central States does have a family program, so for those individuals that could make it a little vacation and the ladies and work and kids can go to the family activities, and then you guys have to do the board stuff. But anyway, so that's 2025.Charlie Sierra Victor Hotel Foxtrot Sierra.org. So 2025 Central States VHF Society.org. The details of that one. Steve and Lucia is going to be the one that is going to be doing the technical proceedings. So all the details, if you're interested in writing a VHF paper, it's going to be handling that, and details will be coming along again at that website as we proceed the ones that we did. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Raskin.
Yeah, look at that.
Eat lots of cornbread. So, thank you everyone for showing up today. I know it was super early, 9:15 in the morning. I haven't even had my coke yet. And I'm still kind of sick from last night. Just taking busy. If you like, please come forward and check out George's stuff. He'll be answering technical questions for the next 10 minutes.